Hi, my name's Gemma Mitchell. I am a financial advisor and a professional wealth coach, but most importantly, I talk money and I help people with their money. So very excited. I'm about to be on the online prosperity show and I'll be talking all things, reinvention, making sure that you have a clear path that aligns with you and really getting the point across that there are so many ways that you can build wealth and build a life that you love. You just need to find out what works for you. So I'm excited to get into it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be diving into the world of financial resilience with the one and only Gemma Mitchell. Now, Gemma, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Excited to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. Can you help me with this? Because my headphones are kind of tangled at the moment and it kind of feels like, I can't get anything done unless my headphones are in place. And that could be how you are feeling right now, because if you ever felt like your finances were tangled, like your headphones in your pocket, then you're not alone. Gemma is here to help you untangle them with a touch of humor and a lot of wisdom, as she is the founder of Cultiver Financial Consulting, and she is also the inspiring force behind Bent Not Broke and numerous other ventures that she's going to be telling us about. And she just let me in on a secret, something that you're going to have to hear towards the end of this episode today. So basically, Gemma has made it her mission to empower everyday Australians to take control of their financial futures. As we started off with tangled headphones, she basically helps you untangle your finances. But here's a twist. Gemma's expertise isn't just professional. It's actually personal. I mean, her life story and her experience are things that we're going to be exploring on the Online Prosperity Show today. So this is your cue to actually subscribe to the show, so you're not going to miss out on any of the advice that's going to unfold today after this. Now, she actually navigated her own financial rebuild after a divorce, and she's actually crafted a unique approach that combines education, empathy, and actionable strategies. There's a lot of people that teach finances from experience or maybe from just the book knowledge without the actual lived experience. And Gemma is here to show us how she has navigated her own tangled headphones and with things that will not only leave you feeling inspired to straighten your own financial path, but you also walk away with practical steps so you can start thriving no matter where you will be starting from. So I encourage you to grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and get ready to meet the woman who proves that being bent does not mean that you are broken. Now, Gemma, I could go on, but I'm still...
That is quite the intro. I love it.
Yeah, but I'm still stuck. I can't get past the fact that my headphones are tangled. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what actually inspired you to venture into this financial consulting and doing what you're doing for others now.
Yeah, excellent. So my journey in finance started from a very, very young age. I was always, into finance, managing my money. I always had really big goals and knew that money was going to be an important part of that. So I was working from a young age and I was very intentional with my money, saving, doing a little budget, that kind of stuff. But then I started working at a bank straight out of school. And from there, I really just was immersed in finance and kind of fell into different, different careers within the bank, different areas, and really just loved finance, financial planning and helping people. So I was a financial advisor for many years. And a few years ago, I think it was about 4 years ago, I was really struggling. I had some personal things going on and I was just really burnt out from the finance industry. It's a very hard slog. There's lots of changes. It's very demanding and difficult when you've got a young family and kind of personal stuff going on. So I was so burnt out and I decided to take a career break. And I thought, I'll be back giving financial advice within a year or two when I'm refreshed, and, that'll be me till retirement. And during that time, I started, like consulting, just talking to people about money. And I built this business around financial education, which hasn't really been done in the past. We kind of had traditional financial advice or nothing. And all of the people that don't fit in that model, didn't really have anywhere to go. So I started doing some financial consulting and having conversations with clients and really just helping them know where to go, whether that's advice or a mortgage broker or, building a roadmap. And in that time, I met all of these other amazing people who were doing a similar thing to me. And yeah, we kind of are like, we're money coaches. It's not, it wasn't a recognized profession then. It was kind of financial advice or nothing. And now it's really becoming much more understood, and the value of it, and people having more options. So yeah, I've been what I call like a money coach or a consultant. I work with different companies so they can improve their compliance and their user experience and build accessible, affordable products and things for people to manage their money well. But I also do the one-on-one coaching, which absolutely lights me up. Just making sure people know that whatever their age stage, there are options. And, whether that's me or that's somebody else, there is always going to be something that you can take your finances to the next level. So that's what I do.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey. Now, you introduce us to this young girl that's already clued up on money, saving, budgets, and things of that nature. Where did that inspiration come from?
I don't know. Like my mom was always doing budgets. My grandma, we did have some money conversations. So usually, like when we talk about your money mindset and your experiences around money, they're usually formed from about age 7 for most of us. So I do understand that it was building quite a long time, in the making, but we can have it's what's interesting to me is my brother and my sister, so I'm one of 3, are not the same. So we can all have this a same upbringing but totally different experiences. So this is one of the mind-blowing things is, when you're working with a couple or when you're working with different people and you're like, why is there conflict? It's like, well, because you had totally different experiences growing up. Even 2 siblings have different behaviors and mindsets. But now in saying that, that doesn't mean that I was actually good with money. That doesn't mean that I actually had healthy behaviors around money. So people will assume, oh, okay, so she was doing budgeting, she was getting, her goals, sort of, she was achieving her goals. That doesn't mean that I was doing it in a healthy way. I actually had a lot of guilt around spending, stress around money. I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so now I'm very aware of, that you can be seen to be doing good things and then still not actually in a healthy way for you. So yeah, while I love like the skills and things I learned, I love that I had that, but I'm also wish I had a bit more compassion for myself back then. Like, just calm down, set the bar a bit lower and enjoy. So yeah, I noticed and your behaviors, your patterns and your feelings around money, we don't just get rid of them overnight, but we need to be aware of them and then use them as our superpower and just set ourselves up so that like the systems around us work with who we became and who we're trying to be with our money. So yeah, just because I was good with it on the outside doesn't mean that it was healthy at all.
Fantastic. I love that distinction. You know what I mean? You obviously have a clue, a bit of an awareness of, being good but not healthy with it. Now,
Yes.
if you're at that age and you're already budgeting, you're already working around, there must have been some conversations that were happening at the coffee table or at the dinner table, about money, because in some families, apparently it doesn't grow on trees and money is evil and things of that nature. Well, what was dinner time like?
Yeah, so I have reflected on this quite a bit. So I think a lot of my behaviors around money is I had a scarcity around money, and so the way that it was talked about was in a really limiting way, and that's not. I'm not saying that's actually really common if you think about like my age and how our parents learned about money. That's not saying my parents were doing the wrong thing. That's the only way that they knew and what I see most people's upbringing be like. So I think I had a bit of a scarcity around money because it was like and I catch myself saying this to my kids, oh no, we can't afford that. And it's me just wanting to stop them asking if we can afford it. And so I catch myself and I go, no, actually, sorry, we can afford it, but we're prioritizing. Remember, we're saving for this, or remember, we just did that. So I think the go-to, which we all do, no, we can't afford that. Shut the conversation down, or yeah, it's just stuff like that. So I built a bit of a scarcity around money, that it was limiting, that I really had to hold on to it because I didn't know when it was coming next. A lot of control around it. So while money was talked about, I don't know how positive it was. But now when I reflect on my childhood, I go, my parents prioritized so much, they probably just didn't communicate it that well. Because if I think back, like, we had overseas trips, we had a holiday all the time. I had a horse, like I went to pony club. So my parents did save and were very mindful of where they spent money, and, cut expenses and all of those things, because they were prioritizing these amazing experiences. So what felt like restrictive and like we didn't have much money day to day, they were prioritizing for the values. So that's actually a really healthy thing to do. It was just how potentially I perceived it at the time, whereas now I reflect and I go, oh, that's amazing, those experiences we had.
Absolutely, and I quite like that. And obviously, you are taking us really on a journey to explore, and also helping people either validate or giving them permission to, with the way that they engage with money. Now, you keep referring to the fact that somebody is good with money. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe give us a definition of what it means to be good with money? Because just paying your bills on time is not being good with money, or just making
Cool.
sure that the phone is not ringing and they're demanding their last
A deck
final.
collector.
That's not
Yeah.
being good with money. If you can maybe walk us through your understanding.
Yeah, well, I think it's a society expectation of what good with money is, and it really depends on you and your values on what you deem that to be. Like even wealth, we all have a different benchmark in our mind of what wealth and security is to us. So I think people need to actually define what good with money means to them, and even when they've defined it, dive deeper and be like, well, why does it actually mean that, and what feeling comes with it if I am paying my bills on time, or if I have some money set aside for an emergency, like what does that mean to me, like the sleep at night test. But I think society, if we look at what the good with money kind of key indicators are, it's, maybe not living paycheck to paycheck. It's making sure you can afford the things that you want, not having to say no to things because you can't afford them, but more so because you're prioritizing other things or you're making really intentional decisions. I think that's a really, really good key thing to managing your money, and can be applied to everybody, right? As long as you're spending money intentionally that means something to you and adds value, great. But also being good with money should mean that you're focusing on now, because money is a tool to be enjoyed and tomorrow's not promised to anyone, but you need to be thinking of future you as well. So the decisions you make today have such a knock-on effect to future you. I think to be good with money, you need to be making sure decisions you make today are not going to hinder the person that you're going to be next. So yeah, you really need to dive into what your baseline for wealth and security and good with money. But I think there's a couple of main things that we all kind of expect that good with money means, and that's really around your cash flow and yeah, putting some money away for the future, those types of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so many people, especially, when they're growing up, they never are exposed to money and, conversations and things of that nature. But for those that are just at the back of the room, you ended up working in the financial sort of sector, and seeing, people's bank balances and maybe talking to them about, stuff. What do rich people have for breakfast?
Boring stuff. So I always remember working at the bank. So like one of my first jobs was NAB and then CBA. But the person that walked in that looked homeless with no shoes on, that people turned their nose up at, they were the people that had the money in the bank. It is so, and this is there's a saying, it's wealth whispers, what's the saying around that, and it is so true. The people that have the least flashy lives are usually the ones that are holding on to their wealth, and the ones that are putting out the rich look and, doing all of the things and putting it out there to the world that they're rich. Maybe they are in income, but are they in time and wealth and generational wealth and all of those kind of things? So yeah, there's a saying, I can't remember if there's more to it, but it's something like wealth whispers. And I honestly believe that from everything that I have seen. As a financial advisor, I would see people come in and they would be in such a good position and they'd be like, oh, do you think we can retire? Like, this is our modest life. So do you think we can retire? And I'd be like, yes, years ago. But then other people would come in and they'd have not a lot and they'd be like, we want to retire on this, this, and this. And I'd be like, whoa, you really are. It was just so backwards, so backwards. So yeah, I think wealth whispers is the key there.
Absolutely. Well, I think maybe for the interest of those that don't quite know, I'm gonna take off all the trappings that you
I listen. I have a vice, and it's designer handbags. But I said, like, I have a lot of guilt around spending and things, so I have to be very mindful with it. But I think if you are doing all of the things that add value to your life and you're not spending in areas that don't add value, you can then afford to direct money and set goals. And like, I'm not here to say don't have that extra coffee out a day and no avo and toast, and yeah, don't buy any designer handbags as I walk around with mine. But I'm very intentional with where I want to spend my money, and my big things are handbags, but travel, and that's a value to me. And when I do buy a handbag, I will research it for a long time because they're designed. I often buy them secondhand from like reputable retailers and stuff like that. And it's usually I only get one. Well, I only get one very rarely, but at a goal. So it's either related around my goals. Like, it's never just, oh, that bag looks nice, I'll buy that. It's usually I've been thinking about it and I've worked towards something for a year or two or more. So I think if you're intentional with your money and you have goals, your money is just a tool. You need to enjoy it. So yeah, if you wanna splurge on things, as long as it's not stopping you from doing the next thing, as long as it doesn't have a knock-on negative effect, why not?
Absolutely. Well, now I've gotten to understand you there, Gemma, a little bit, because from my understanding, when you're trying to buy a certain kind of bag, you obviously wait in line for over a year, and then you make small purchases to the lead up to that bag. Is that the bag you're referring to there?
Well, I actually have a perfect example. So I have a bag on my wish list at the moment, and I've wanted it for a very long time, but it is a very different style to what I've had previously. And I was in Kmart the other day and I saw one that is a similar size and similar setup inside. It was $18. So I bought it and I've been using it for the last 2 weeks to try before I buy, because this new one is a significant amount that's going to, take away from my goals, but I've set goals for a reward. But now I'm just going to try this bag for a couple of weeks, and then it's not going to go to waste. If I don't keep it, my daughter's already eyeing it off. And then I've got a friend who just does not care about handbags like I do, who will be love this. It'll go to a very good home. But yeah, I was like, I'm just going to try this because I don't want to commit to buying something. I want to make sure that it is actually practical. It goes with my outfits, all of that kind of stuff. So that is a great kind of lead into how I work with clients. Sometimes clients will be very set on one path. So when I deal with retirees, for example, they might have a dream to buy the dream caravan or camper van and travel around Australia. And I'm like, cool. Let's not wait till retirement. Let's do some weekends away. Like, go and hire a caravan, hire a couple of caravans so you can see a different style. See if you even like doing that. See if that size you liked towing. Like, you don't have to jump in and buy the $50,000 or $100,000 caravan. You can actually make decisions that, yes, they might cost you a little bit, but they could also save you a lot in the long term. So with caravanning, I definitely recommend that. Anything really, like there's people that have been in their home for 40 years that then decide they're going to downsize into a luxury apartment, that have never lived in an apartment before. I'm like, whoa, before you jump into that, go and rent one, go and stay for a holiday, maybe even rent for a year, or just try before you make huge decisions to see if they align with you. You don't always have to jump in head first. Me with handbags, other people with houses.
Absolutely. I like that. You know why? Because so many people get to a certain age, Gemma, and they've always wanted to do certain things, and eventually they go for that motorbike, they go for that handbag, they go for that car, and all of a sudden it's just hanging in their garage because they've decided and figured out, no, this is not the thing that I want. And
Yeah.
especially in the area that I live in, we've got very small front yards, and many of them are littered with caravans and boats. And I know that
Mhm.
caravan would be best used in the outback, but it's parked in front of them, and they're paying for it every single
Yeah.
day for it just to be parked in front there. And
Yeah. So they've
I
got
see it.
rego, depreciation, all of these things. And so the caravan one I use intentionally because I actually did a trip around Australia with my the two kids and my ex-husband, which we loved. But I got to the stage where I got to about 3 months and I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I'm missing my kitchen, I'm missing bedrooms, closed doors. And so I learned that 3 months was my maximum. I remember my ex-husband being like so disappointed, and I'm like, hey, 3 months, holiday in 3 months, like come on, like that's pretty good. And that just meant I wanted to go home and have the normality and the routine, and then maybe we did another stretch. So I learned smaller trips to do the lap, the dream that we wanted. We had to do it in smaller. That would work better for our family. So I think there's always going to be a way that you can do things, but you should try things before you jump in. And then when we got back, we sold the caravan because we worked out how many trips we would think we would do, like thought we would do for the rest of the year. Then we calculated everything. We're like, I think it would be better for us to rent one when we needed it than have that amount of our money, our wealth sitting there when it could be working more productively for us somewhere else. Um, so I think whatever you want to do, whatever financial goal or life goal, there is always more than one way for you to achieve that and to get the feeling you want, what you're chasing. It's never the object, it's the feeling, it's the experience, it's the value. There's more than one way to get that, but people are just so there's tunnel vision because we've only experienced, we see what other people have done and we might see they're just doing something one way and we think that's the only way to do it. But it's rarely the case.
Absolutely. It's like keeping up with the Joneses. And just because you heard your neighbors went on and, bought a boat, you just going to want to buy a boat just so you can fit in with
Yeah.
them and with
And
things of
it's
that.
better to go on their boat and then you don't have to pay any of the fees. It's the dream.
Absolutely.
Make friends with have all this stuff.
Absolutely. And from what you're saying, it's like a journey to self-development or self-discovery because so many people would be wishing to go on that holiday and then they realize, wait a minute,
Mhm.
I don't quite enjoy this. I actually
Yeah.
physically don't enjoy it. Like I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. We've also done a trip around Australia, but ours was a bit faster. But 2 months ago we went to Thailand and I hated the flight there. All right, because it's a 9 hour flight from Melbourne, and 5 of those hours you're still in Australia. All right, so you
Yeah.
you can imagine we've done all that weight and things of that nature, and yeah, you're
Mhm.
still in the same country that you haven't left.
Yeah.
But a lot of people would be saying, "Oh, I enjoy traveling. I enjoy something like this." But thank you so much for sharing that. Now, you've introduced us to your ex-husband, and obviously this is somebody that you shared your life with and things of that, but you've now gone on and openly started talking about rebuilding your life
Mhm.
post divorce. Maybe can you share with us how that experience has shaped your approach to helping others with their finances?
Yeah, so I talk about this quite openly and I know how fortunate I am. Like we had a very amicable separation. We're on good terms. He's a major part of my life and I wasn't leaving under any safety or anything concerned. So I know how fortunate I am. But like you were talking earlier about kind of the theory and the finance, we all have our experiences that we then go and help other people with. But I had been coaching and giving financial advice to people going through their own, whether it was divorce or loss of a spouse or whatever, plot twist kind of threw things off course for them. I had been coaching and advising people through this for a really long time, and I had all the theory down, and I knew for my own divorce then from insights to others what was coming and what things that I had to watch out for, and how it would probably go. But what I didn't account for is how challenging it is when you are dealing with the emotional side of things. So you can have the best plan in the world, but if you don't have the support, like the processes that actually keep the habits on track, and you're, going through grief and all of those things, like it's impossible to stick to it. So I had a much clearer like appreciation for how hard it is to get through all of that, and to know what your options are, but also to let go. Like, you're grieving a life that you imagined, and as I found out, I thought, I'd split, and then we'd both go on these paths with our finances and our lives, and I kind of felt that when I dug deeper, a lot of the goals that I had tied my self identity to, my success, all of that kind of stuff didn't now fit with the new life and who I wanted to become. So, for example, like, home ownership was always really important to me, and I've owned and renovated homes for years. And now I'm renting and have investment properties. And even though I'm very clear on that is the best strategy for me right now, I still get pulled back to I just want to own my own home. And then I have to stop and go, no, what's actually happening here? What does a home represent? It represents this, this, and this to me. So calm, stop looking at houses on realestate.com. You're happy where you are. And I just, so those you just don't just change overnight. You might feel like it's smooth sailing for a while, and then something throws you back off course, and you need to kind of come back and go, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the value? What's the underlying thing? And so it's
Mm.
definitely not smooth sailing, which I kind of, it might sound funny now, but I kind of expected that. Like, with my clients, I'm like, well, I've given you the great financial plan and we're sticking to it, but I didn't realize how many of these other elements just constantly give you setbacks, even when you've got the best plan going forwards. It's very, very challenging. I now know firsthand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that puts you in a very unique position because you've got that empathy of, dealing with somebody, knowing what they might be going through, not necessarily just ticking a
Mhm.
box, and
Yeah.
just making sure that you are, selling a product or things like that. Now, is that where the phrase bent but not
Hmm.
broken comes from? You maybe
Yes.
walk us
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
what that means for you.
Yeah, so where that came, so I've always had my consulting and my coaching business and the education, but that company got born out of the divorce and me going, wow, this is really hard. If I'm struggling with this and I know all the things that I need to be doing, it must be really hard for other people. And as a bit of an outlet, I like to have a plan, like we talked about. I like to have a budget and those kind of things. And in the first year of my divorce, I had no control. I felt like I had no control over my finances. I was kind of in limbo, wondering, well, what's going to happen with the divorce and the settlement and all. Felt completely out of control. So when I feel out of control, I like to put plans in place. So I just started writing, all of the things that I knew and the process I was going through, and, getting back to my values and stripping out my goals and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, if I'm struggling with this, this is going to help somebody else. So I just started kind of writing it all down, and it became, an ebook, a workbook, and just kind of evolved from there. And I just wanted to kind of separate that from what I was already doing. And the messaging is that you might be feeling bent, and you're like, the path might not feel clear and straight anymore, but there are so many different ways to build wealth and to live the life that is authentic to you. You just need to find them. You just need to know who to go to, what options you have, and that the path, no matter how bent it feels, is, you will find the right path for you. So bent not broke is just like a fun little side business that really hones in on those people that have had a major plot twist and they feel stuck. They're feeling broken, bent. So that was just a bit of a creative outlet that I just put all of my energy into, and it helped, bit of therapy for me along the way, something to concentrate on.
Absolutely. It sounds like a platform for a very good podcast. Have you maybe thought about that? I mean, seriously, because
I Yeah, so I like being guests on other people's podcasts. A friend of mine who's another money coach, we did I think 26 episodes of our own. That's like on YouTube, and it was for another platform. And so they did all the hard work for us. But we I think we realized that we like being on others and with other teams and all of that kind of stuff. But yes, I jump on podcasts as often as I can. I love them.
Absolutely. Now, obviously you've taken it and made it your mission to help others, obviously make sense of their finances. Like I keep alluding to my headphones that are tangled, they still are,
Okay.
and now I
They are
know.
very tangled, yes.
And that's pretty much how a lot of people are living life. As I mean, we may have just come out of credit cards, but now there's other facilities that people talk about, which obviously you enjoy today and you cry later, and things of that nature. You went through stuff of your own, Gemma. You could have just curled in your rental property and in fetal position and
Oh,
maybe
I did.
yeah.
I
But
had to
you
stay
chose,
there though. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you didn't choose to stay there, and you chose to actually send the elevator down to help others, on their way up. Why is this mission so important to you?
So I've always loved finance. I want to make an impact. And so with my time as a financial advisor, one of my frustrations was that I couldn't make the impact and help the clients I wanted to on the scale that I wanted to. There's so many restrictions and what you can and can't do. And yeah, it was really challenging. But I've always had just a passion for making sure people know that they're not stuck and there's options, and they will find what works for them. And I think if somebody hears me talking about my personal story and then just has a little bit of hope, that's all I want, right? Like, I just want people to know that there is something that they can do about anything. Like, we know, like, if we tend to know what we need to do, right? But then it's actually putting it in place that we struggle with. Like, I know I should be eating healthier and actually going to the gym, but I don't. And I do the stop start pattern. But that's the same with our finances. Like, a lot of the time that I'll coach people, they'll have this light bulb moment and they'll be like, oh, we knew that. We knew we should be doing that. And I'm like, yes, it's easy when you have this dedicated time to actually strip away everything else and focus on that. And then we go, oh, if I add 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's rarely like a brand new concept or something totally out of the box. It's rarely an overhaul. It's small tweaks that you make to your day-to-day routine that make the biggest difference. So yeah, I love talking to people and them hearing things and then getting inspired that they can actually make a change in their lives.
There's nothing like somebody who actually gets their financial, statement or financial facts, and they know the story that okay, this is what's coming in, this is what's going out, and this is how much
Mhm.
money I actually am making, and it's so liberating. But
Yeah.
as you would understand, in societies that we live in, people don't talk about religion, they don't talk about politics, and they obviously don't talk about money. If money was a topic of conversation, people would greet each other saying, hey Gemma, how's your money? You know what I mean? And
Yeah. It's very taboo. We definitely don't talk about it. And if you
yeah,
do talk about it, you hear very specific things that people want you to hear,
yeah, exactly.
not the good with the bad, and all of the other things that you
Yeah.
need to kind of know about it. And one of the things I think is really important is if you're going to compare yourself to somebody else, whether it's their fitness or their wealth or their stage in their career, you have to compare the journey that got them there. You can't just compare like somebody's results without comparing, like your results against somebody else without comparing all of the different circumstances that enabled them to get there or what they did. Like, it is so hard. Nobody's journey is the same, so we literally can't compare ourselves against somebody else realistically and then think that that's going to be empowering.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe you live in a world different to ours. The human brain loves a shortcut. So
Yes.
I scroll through Instagram, All right, and then I see Gemma is there. Wow, with that handbag that she was talking about, she's actually went on and bought
It
it.
came up one.
Yeah. Oh wow. You
Yeah.
told us it was Kmart, but you tell that to your accountant. And 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 I'm looking and scrolling through, and I'm looking at her. The shortcut that I would see is she's an
Mhm.
Aussie. She's a woman. She looks like me, and why can't I? And I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of people do with a lot of
Yep.
things, and then have and then they just create a shortcut from that particular thing and say, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. All right. And
Yep.
you are
I
saying
love that.
you buy some of your things secondhand. Nobody knows you buy some of your things secondhand. They will go straight to her I can't even say the name,
Amen.
Jimenez, and then buy that $15,000 bag, and then they're now sitting crying because they can't afford the next payment. Now, for
Yeah.
somebody who's really overwhelmed and doesn't even know where to start or unsure where to begin, what is the first step that you'd recommend that they start, especially when it comes to
Mm. Yeah.
tangling their
It's
finances?
hard. Yeah, it's really hard. And the common thing that we're hearing constantly at the moment is people just feel like they're not getting ahead, like the cost of living, mortgages, all of that kind of stuff. So there's so much going against us at the moment. But the what you need to do, we break it down into kind of three steps, I guess. You need to be really clear on what you are trying to achieve and what's important to you. Like, so when you are really clear on what actually is what you're chasing in either purchases or life, what the underlying value is, then it makes it much easier for you to decide a path forwards and question decisions and pick up on behaviors, patterns that you're day to day doing. So you need to know your why. Do you want financial security? Do you want your own home because it'll be secure? Do you want to have enough income so you don't need to work so you can volunteer, or do you want to have enough saved so your kids can go to a certain school, or whatever is important to you? You need to know your why and then challenge why it's important. Is it society pressure that's telling you, well, everyone else is doing it, or is it actually important to you and is going to add value? So you need to know your why as a baseline. Then you need to actually have a plan. So when you know your why, you can start kind of working towards things. But a plan needs to be, well, what are your levers? Yes, like, can you earn more? Can you spend less? What are you actually prepared to do? Because everything has a trade-off. So like, if you there's a saying I love, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. So you need to work out what the values are and then have a plan that actually aligns to that. And yes, there's going to be things that you sacrifice, but you need to know what you're comfortable to sacrifice. And yeah, like as I said, like with expenses, when people start to think, oh, we'll get ahead, I need to get ahead, they automatically go to cutting expenses. But rarely do they think, oh, I could try and earn more money, because there's a cap on, you can only like reduce your expenses so much, but there's no cap on our earnings. So you need to kind of, what are the levers that you can put into your plan? And it might not be that we can all increase our income today, but it might be, well, if I did this, this, and this within a few years or whatever. You need to have a plan. And then the third key part is, when you know your values and the plan, you actually need to build and have the systems that support them, that are going to keep you on track when motivation's gone, like discipline, all that kind of stuff. So if you know you've got a tendency to overspend or impulse buy or something, set your bank accounts up, set your automations up, do your budget a way that is going to support these patterns that you're noticing that you're doing. So what is somebody else is doing won't necessarily work for you, because they don't have the same values, they don't have the same, red flags, whatever you want to see. So you need to work out what you need to make you successful, and then build the systems and the habits around it, so that day to day you've got these guardrails that actually support what you're trying to do. There's no point, just leaving stuff to chance. You need to actually go, what am I going to do? What do I need to put in place? My bank accounts, my spending, my this, my that. That is going to set me up for success, not just let's hope this works out.
I quite like this because so many people just see things that are, maybe your neighbors get a new delivery every single month of things that are coming in, etc. You're not sure where it is that they're buying them from, how they're making those purchases, or is it just stuff that they're getting from work, and you go on and start buying those things not knowing you're eating into your future, whereas they're not even
Yeah.
spending money on that. And yeah, I quite like that, I get, a little bit emotional when, because with our kids, my wife has older sisters who obviously send us hand me downs, but it's usually stuff that is, of really good quality that their kids would not have had
Yeah.
the chance to wear. So when I'm out there with my kids, everyone is just like, wow, this is nice. And then I see them buying stuff and I'm like, whoa, so you went and spent that money. I
Mhm.
didn't, so yeah. But
It's
Gemma,
it's tricky. Like with social media and things as well, we're just seeing everybody else's highlight reels, right? We're not seeing that, oh, they did that, but they got all of this credit card debt. And, you might be sitting in your modest house with your car that gets you A to B, but, maybe you're in a great position that then you can do the holidays and things that add value to you. So I think once you strip all that away and you know what your why is, you can then actually be building a life around what is important to you.
absolutely. But Gemma, you don't live in my street. You don't go to my church. You're not in the same Facebook group as I am. So I need to keep up with the Joneses and the Kardashians of this world, and you don't get my story. You don't understand me, some
Mhm.
people would be thinking, yes, maybe Gemma, she's done trips around Australia. She had a pony growing up, so maybe, I don't know, a silver
A
spoon.
bit out of touch, yeah.
So it doesn't relate. Can you maybe share a story? I mean, obviously, without going into details, maybe a memorable story of a client who actually went from feeling bent to
Mhm.
thriving, just so that we can see that this actually works on humans.
Yeah.
Because from what we know and what we see every single day, everybody else is in the same boat.
There are so many varieties of clients that I see and that I help. So up here, I work with some like domestic violence, different organizations and things. And, so it might be, I might have a coaching client that is trying to leave a situation and they might be leaving with absolutely nothing. And we're looking at what Centrelink can you get, what bonus payments you can get, like what kind of grants and things that they can apply for, literally having nothing. And then I have clients who potentially, might be getting an inheritance, but don't have any of the good behaviors that we kind of talked about, like knowing their values of the systems and things that are actually going to support them having that amount of money, like they're set up for failure kind of from the start. So I see such a vast kind of a client, and there is not one way for you to do anything. So I won't apply the same principles of how they're going to manage their bank account, like the stuff that keeps them up at night. There's not a system that I can go, this is the way that it's going to work for you and that's going to mean success. It's all about kind of working with them at the moment on what can they do, what small steps can they do right now that will just keep moving the needle forwards. Because once you see small wins, then they can compound. But yeah, it might be that it goes from, somebody not working, having like, so I help people that might have left a marriage, and this might be the first time back in the workforce after having kids. They need to go, because remember we talked about you can only cut your expenses so much. Maybe it is that they actually need to go to work, and we go, well, how do we get a pay rise? How do we get the income we need? What's our plan for building that income, getting the confidence to re-enter the workforce? Or is a side hustle right? Is part-time, so it can be that we kind of coach people through. I talk to people about, I have a toolbox of all the things that's worked for that I like, that's worked for clients. There's things that I wouldn't do myself because I'm like, they won't gel with my personality and my behaviors, but I think that'll work for you. Just try this. And we just help the client on a journey. And maybe what they try doesn't work, but they need to know that they just have to keep tweaking things until they get to their success. And what success looks like for them will be very different to what it feels like for the next person.
Mm, quite like that, because from what you're saying, no two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. So we each are coming in with a whole lot of our own entanglements.
Yes. And sometimes I actually see people who are doing really well, and they might be very comfortable in what they're doing as well, but they, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself financially. They might be feeling like all this responsibility for their family and to do really well, which is what I have. And just talking to somebody else and stress testing their ideas and giving them the confidence that, oh yeah, cool, I don't have any suggestions for you. That's great. Like, nobody has ever said to me, oh, this was a waste of money paying for a coaching session to be told, hey, I think you're doing great, you know? So I think there's value in just getting some reassurance, because like you said, we don't talk to people about money. And sometimes we don't want to talk to the people closest to us for, embarrassment, or it might feel like we're bragging if we're in a better position, like, it makes a lot of sense to speak to somebody removed from your lifestyle, whether it's to give you help and hope and show you that there's ways that you can be making improvement, or just to help you sleep at night by going, I'm doing everything that I should be doing right now. Great.
Mm, absolutely. Now, Gemma, this is really bugging me. Do you think they'll help me at the Apple Store with this, or it's not just gonna be stuck like this? I mean, like we keep alluding to finances being tangled like this for a lot of people,
Mhm.
and managing them by yourself is obviously something that's very difficult, and it's it might feel like a DIY renovation project. I know you were into renovations and things like
Yeah.
that. When should somebody come to you? When should somebody really come to you? Because I think I need help. This is not going to work.
Yeah. So if you think you need help, then you should be reaching out. And it's something like I always tell people, reach out for just a 15-minute call, like to whoever you think the person might be that can help you, because chances are, if it's not them, they're going to know where your next step is. So I don't ever want people to feel like I don't know who to go to, so I'm not going to do anything. So if somebody was to call me and say, this is the situation, I don't know who I need to help, I might go, no, this is definitely me. I might go, oh, it's actually a mortgage broker, or you could talk to your bank, or potentially like free debt counseling from different organizations might actually suit you. So there's free financial coaching, what do they call it, counseling in Australia from places like the Salvation Army and things. And then on the other side of the scale is traditional financial advice, which is costly, but there's so much value in it. And it's generally where they're recommending, strategies, products, really elevating things. But there hasn't been anything in the middle ground. It's kind of been like Google is your friend there. Whereas now there is money coaching. So if you're not eligible for the free counseling, but you're not in a position that warrants financial advice yet, you just need to get your day-to-day stuff, there's some stresses, that's when you could see a money coach to bridge the gap between and get you ready that, down the track, you'll be in a much better position to maybe go and get financial advice, or maybe DIY is actually for you. You just need some help building the guardrails and testing your knowledge and getting your foundations right. So that's where you would come and see a coach.
Absolutely. And what would be the best way to get a hold of you, Gemma?
So via one of my websites, one of my companies, but my main website, which ties in all my kind of projects and who I'm working with, is gemmamitchell.com.au, Gemma with a G. And in there you can book a free, like, 15-minute call. A lot of my time is just talking to people and going, oh yeah, no, I think that's me, or no, I think it's just about building a roadmap so people know that they don't have to sit still. They know that this is the next place that will keep you moving forwards.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually, yeah, step forward and maybe have that 15-minute conversation so that they can put their financial future in the right direction. Now, Gemma, you would also maybe appreciate this, that there's a lot of shame that comes with having to admit that you can't deal with your finances, and that's just something that I think has been beaten into a lot of people, and they would just just maybe think, well, that's it. I think
Yeah.
it's always been like this. It is what it is. I heard something that it's not necessarily directed to finances, but it's like, if you feel like you can't do anything for yourself, find somebody that you can do it for, and maybe you can pointed towards your kids or pointed towards your family, or you want to retire your wife or retire your spouse or something of those scenarios. Now, as a mother yourself, how do you teach your children about financial literacy?
This is a great one. So I think, so there's a couple of things here. Money, like anything, managing money well is a skill. Nobody is born being good with money. It's a skill that you need to develop, right? So even the best tennis players in the world have a coach. So no matter how good you're at something, I personally have a financial advisor because we can't see our own shortfall, a lot of the time. So I think the most important thing to understand for people is you're not bad with money. You haven't found what works for you yet, but there will always be something. Now, when I'm coaching clients or I'm talking about education and things, the most important thing that I tell people about their kids is you need to put your own oxygen mask on first. You need to be financially doing well financially before you help them. But in saying that, so people always have goals. I want to save for the kids. I want to invest for the kids, or, these types of things. But you can have such a huge impact on their financial journey just in the way that you have conversations with them. So if you can save and invest, great. But there are so many ways that you can have massive impacts in their financial lives by having really good conversations with them. And that should start very early. And obviously it should be age appropriate, but like I said before, usually by age 7, our mindset unconsciously is set around our beliefs around money. That is crazy to me. So yeah, just being really aware of how you speak about money, getting them involved in, well, this is what money is and this is how money works. And, oh, we've done a budget, or we're doing grocery shopping and go, oh, well, we've got everything on our list and that's with our budget. Just having little conversations so that when they get to 15, 16, 17, first job, it's not like this is the first time they're having a conversation about money. And the one that I said before about try to make sure the language you use, and it's so hard to actually do in the moment, but be mindful of the language. So talk to them about prioritizing. It's not that we can't afford that. It's because we don't want to create fear with them. We want them to know that, well, we could do that, but don't we want the money for that? And remember, we're doing that. So those conversations are really important and will have a bigger impact than your kids getting to a set age and here's this investment portfolio that we saved for you, but we never spoke to you about money the whole time, so you don't know how to manage it. Yeah.
And that's the lottery effect. Basically, somebody just gets into some inheritance or some sort of money, and grand opening, grand closing. I quite like the analogy for put your mask on first, because yes, you are having these conversations every single day. And what I've realized about kids is monkey see, monkey do. It's not necessarily what it is that you tell them, it's how they see how you're doing it. And I'm noticing you've got books behind you there, and the same as I've done. I spend time educating myself on health, wealth, and relationships. And sometimes my kids walk in on me reading, and I've also walked in on them trying to read something, and they, you know what I mean, because that's what they're seeing, and now they're deriving their own skill sets from reading and things of that nature. I also like one thing that you mentioned, that start small. Start with them when they're very young, because from 16 to 65, you can earn a wage, but from 0 to 99, you can earn a profit. And so many people miss out on these years because they're very formidable, where somebody could actually be compounding, and putting things together. Sorry, I'm now just being
Absolutely.
very.
That is so true. And the amount of people, like I've used myself as an example, who get into their 30s and 40s that have to undo all of the behaviors that they've learned that are now no longer serving them. If you're having really healthy conversations and you're modeling healthy behaviors, the kids are going to be set up for success. They can still work out what works for them. It doesn't mean that what you did to build your wealth is going to work for them. It just means that they know that there are healthy ways to do things, or they know what they do and don't, kind of gravitate to, and what their values are. I think the So earlier that you can do it in little conversations. Like I had a conversation with my son the other day because he put this new toy on his Christmas list, and we were talking about that doesn't, because he's very specific about these toys that he's got a collection of them, and this one was one of those, but a totally different size, different, like, I was like, well, that won't fit with your others that you are quite obsessed with them all, being related and to scale and things. I'm like, if you get that, are you going to want those ones, or are you then going to, want all your toys to be that size? Kind of like a lifestyle creep conversation. And that is really the concept that he needs to be aware of when he's 18 plus. But we just made it relate to the toys now and go, well, yeah, that's cool that you'll get that new exciting thing. But what about all the ones that you've worked so hard to get? Does that then make them not as important? Or do you think you'll play with all of them and love them all? And, like me getting a new handbag, I still love the others just as much. So I have conversations with him about stuff like that he doesn't know it's a money conversation, but
Mhm.
really, it is. It's gonna be part of his money journey, having conversations like that.
Absolutely. Well, catch 'em young, as they say. But Gemma, I've had fun having a chat with you. I mean, your life story and your experience, especially when it comes to finances and how you're dealing with them, and your comeback has just really inspired me to want more, be more, and have more. But it would be remiss for me to not ask you this. I mean, you seem to be the queen of reinventions and always coming up with new ideas and things of that nature. What's next?
So I have a couple of things. 2025 is going to be a great year for me. So I have, courses. There's potentially a book and things coming up, but there's lots of great stuff, and I'm working with some really amazing people. And I just think, collaboration is so important because there's so many amazing people out there doing great things in this space about financial education, and I'm inspired by so many of them, and I want to work with them. So yeah, lots of big things in the pipeline for 2025, which I'm very excited about.
Great stuff. I mean, you've done all the right things, Gemma, but do you realize you've actually committed the ultimate sin on the online prosperity show?
Oh, what is that?
You do not mention that you're writing a book and not pledge that you're going to come and launch it on the online prosperity
Oh,
show.
yes, I will definitely be back. I will be back to talk about that.
All right, you're forgiven. Okay.
Thank
But
you.
what an incredible conversation. I mean, Gemma just reminds us all that no matter how bent out of shape we might feel or how life can throw any curveballs, there's always a way to reshape your future. And I think if you found value in today's episode, I encourage you not to keep this to yourself because there could be a girlfriend, a friend, a sister, an uncle, an auntie that could use this financial confidence boost. They might be going through stuff, and like I still haven't figured out how to untangle my own headphones. A lot of people's financial situations look exactly like this, if not worse. So share this episode. That could be the biggest gift that you could give to somebody. All right. And if you've received this episode from somebody having shared it to you, first of all, just walk up to them and give them a big hug because things like this don't just happen by themselves. There's a reason for it. I will put the links in the show notes so that you can connect with Gemma and get started on your own journey to definitely create for and relate to the family and your loved ones based on the money that you would be able to make and retain. Now, let's keep this journey of empowerment and growth going together. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed. I still need to get this done. Bye for now.